What if you could ensure your brand stays relevant and robust, no matter how the digital landscape changes? Many brands rely heavily on a single channel, like social media, making them a little vulnerable to sudden changes and platform specific issues. When platforms change algorithms or face restrictions, brands that aren't diversified can see their reach and engagement plummet. This leaves marketers scrambling to regain lost ground, often with limited success. Want to know how to address that? That's what we're covering in today's episode of The MarTech Show.
The past is gone. Now is the future.
This is The MarTech Show, exploring today's marketing technology solutions. Social media, artificial intelligence, augmented reality.
Now is the future.
Content, SEO, email, analytics, listening, advertising, and more. I'm your host, Mike Allton, and I'm joined by agency owner and technology futurist Robin Dimond. Each episode explores the latest developments in marketing technology and shares new solutions and innovative approaches that you need to know about to grow your business today. And now, the rest of today's episode. Welcome back to the MarTech Show, where Robin and I get to dish on what's shiny and new in the MarTech space and then do a deep dive into a specific platform or solution that can help you and your business today. Hey, Robin, how you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
I am doing great. We've got some controversy brewing over on X this week. The news dropped yesterday that a congressional investigation into the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, which it suggested, organized a boycott among member brands using X for advertising. X's CEO, Linda Yaccarino, posted an open letter and a video to X calling out the behavior, and Elon Musk's X has now sued the alliance for antitrust violations. This, of course, is after Elon famously told advisors to go F themselves and has made move after move with the platform formerly known as Twitter, which has confused, disheartened, and sometimes even angered users, businesses, and these coveted advertising clients. Robin, what do you make of all this?
Oh, okay. We're just jumping in and asking me first. I love it, Mike. There's so much. Okay, so let's unpack this kind of slowly and quickly as we do this. So with what they're doing, yeah, I understand, a lot of people boycotting it. It sucks. And it really is affecting marketing people like me, where we've built this reputation, this community for many clients across X, formerly known as Twitter. So yeah, it's hiding visibility. The other thing I kind of appreciate is that they're the only platform not hiding visibility, where we keep fighting with Meta or Pinterest or YouTube, and it's been hidden by Google, who's been called out on this. Meta's been called out multiple times. So do I like X's maybe aggressive approach in some of their wording? No. But do I think they should be called out, all of these people who are boycotting it? Yes, because it's hurting the business owners. Let's go back to the business owners and small. But I'd love to hear your take, Mike, because I'm feeling the little teeter-tottery on both.
Yeah, I think the bottom line for me, while there may be some wrongdoing here on behalf of that alliance, honestly, it feels like X is having a bit of a tantrum at the moment. And the activity, while perhaps illegal, we'll have to wait and see about that. It's certainly justified. If you can't provide a platform that's serving your customers, they're not obligated to give you their business or their money. And it's really hard for me to, feel sorry for that platform while they're crying about it. So for those of you in the audience, definitely let us know in the comments, what do you think? Should businesses be boycotting X? Is it okay that they're organizing that kind of a boycott? Do you think that that's illegal, or do you think that this is really just a bunch of hooey? But folks, here we've got an example of how the social media and the marketing landscape can change with platforms that may have once been key to a business's traffic, conversion, success suddenly changing and evaporating. All that success seemingly overnight. I mean, X is hardly the first platform to struggle and have a negative impact of businesses. Google Plus, Blab, Periscope, and Vine. Those are just a few examples of platforms that were shut down after users and businesses spent years building followings and referral traffic, while even mainstays like Facebook and LinkedIn continue to see decline in brand reach and engagement. How are brands supposed to utilize social media without becoming dependent on any one platform? How can we diversify and future-proof our marketing efforts? What are our options? That's what Carlos Gil is here to help us with. Carlos is a marketing expert with over 15 years of experience, specializing in driving ROI through growth marketing, social media strategy, and content creation. Currently, the brand evangelist for GetResponse. Carlos is also a sought-after public speaker, author, and consultant. He's known for his innovative approaches to integrating social media and email marketing to build strong, future-proof brands. Carlos shares his expertise through speaking engagements at major industry events like South by Southwest and Social Media Marketing World, and his work that's been featured in notable publications such as CNN Money, Inc. Magazine, and Social Media Examiner. Folks, hey, Carlos, welcome to the show.
What's going on, guys? It's good to be here with you.
We are super excited to have you. We kind of led right into this. Thank you, X, for giving Carlos the stage. We appreciate it.
I just went through a trip down memory lane there, hearing about Blab, Periscope, right. Meerkat,
Vine,
thanks. And that's a good segue in terms of why I'm here to talk to all of you about email marketing.
That is exactly what I'd love you to do. So start by telling us more about your role at GetResponse and some of the unique solutions that GetResponse offers.
For sure. So first of all, I want to say I'm really excited about doing this MarTech show with you, Mike, and Robin. Agora Pulse is a platform that I've not only long admired, but I've also advocated for very publicly through my talks, courses, my book, The End of Marketing. So when I took this role many months ago, I thought about you, Mike, in your role with Agora Pulse, because I've seen firsthand, as someone that's worked in social media marketing on the front lines over the last decade, I've seen the great work that you've done in terms of elevating Agora Pulse throughout our industry. So kudos to you, sir. Many months ago, I was on the job search and I made my job hunt very public. And, it was very humbling to do that as well. A lot of folks recognize me as being a marketing thought leader and one that has not been shy when it comes to touting his successes as an entrepreneur and as an overall marketing thought leader and practitioner. And when you go through a job search in today's day and age, having a following, having a personal brand, it gives you a slight competitive advantage. But also, let's face it, we're all human. So having to let go of that pride and ego takes some self-work. And once I got over that shame and let go of my pride and said, you know what, I'm going to go full-fledged and look for a job, I realized very quickly that when you haven't worked in a corporate job for 7 years, the corporate environment has changed a lot. And on top of that, the jobs that I was interviewing and applying for was more of your kind of standard cookie cutter director of social media, VP of social and digital type jobs. And it didn't necessarily align with where I'm at today as a professional in my career journey, which is where GetResponse comes in. So I was introduced to GetResponse by a gentleman that ironically used to work for the company many years ago, but I met him when he was working for another company, Brand 24, which kind of connecting the dots. I think you can appreciate this, Mike. Brand 24 sponsor at Social Media Marketing World many moons ago, pre-COVID, and they featured myself and yourself and several of our friends in their annual influencer marketing report featuring social media marketing thought leaders, like the top 100 most influential social media marketing thought leaders. So I learned about Brand 24. Mick Griffin, who previously worked at GetResponse, worked also for Brand 24. So that's how he learned about me. And he hits me up one day and he's like, hey, you might want to take a look at this company. They're based here in Poland. They're an email marketing company, but they're looking for someone to help them drive awareness in the US. And I was hesitant at first for a couple of reasons. One, I wasn't necessarily familiar with the company. And that has nothing else to do with the fact that coming from the social media marketing side of the digital tracks, so to speak, I was familiar with the more well-known enterprise Salesforce, HubSpot platforms, but in terms of GetResponse, they weren't necessarily on my radar at that point. But then also two, just having some hesitancy, would I be able to make an impact for this company working across the miles? And To be candid with you, once I had that first initial job interview and I went through the different rounds of job interviews, I realized very quickly, like, if there's any company where I could potentially make a difference, it's this one. If I was to go work for a Fortune 500 company as a head of social, for example, are they going to give me the autonomy to do what we're doing here today, to provide thought leadership for the industry? Are they going to support me speaking? These are areas of my career that are very important. Something I enjoy. Like, I enjoy getting on a live stream and doing this. I enjoy podcasts. I enjoy jumping on stage and teaching. And that can work for a brand as long as they're supportive of it. And one of the things I echoed all along throughout the interview process is like, look, you're acquiring essentially a talent in me that's going to do what he already does, but just under the guise of your brand. Like you see here on the screen, right? It doesn't have at Carlos Gil 83 as my handle. It has at Get Response. I'm still myself. I'm still providing value for your listeners and your viewers. But with that being said, the role was and very much still is centered around helping get Response known in the US through forming strategic partnerships, forming alliances with different platforms such as Agora Pulse. And Get Response is one of the oldest, I like to call them an OG, but they're one of the oldest email marketing platforms in the entire industry. They've been around over 25 years. Like I mentioned before, it's a company that's based in Poland. They were founded in Poland by our CEO and founder, Simon, in his parents' basement. It's just a remarkable, remarkable story. And we have a massive customer base of over 400,000 customers around the world, doing a lot of cool things, such as rolling out an entire content monetization platform and tapping into the creator economy. So there's so many good things that this company has going for it. And as I was going through this interview process, this is going to sound weird to say, Mike, I was actually thinking about you each step of the way. I was thinking about the Allton playbook of helping a foreign company become known in the States. And I just want to say thank you, sir, for inspiring me in that regard. But, I'm a few months into this gig now, and there's so much opportunity, and much of that has to do to kind of bring this full circle because of the state of social media today. Like, if this was 5-6 years ago, I probably wouldn't have been as inclined to come work for the organization, simply because email marketing as a technology, while I view it as highly critical and highly important, especially for brands today, going back 5-6 years ago, my focus was Snapchat and TikTok and LinkedIn and all these social networks. That is what made me known, essentially. But as the pendulum has swung the other way, and going back again to the examples of the Vines and the Blabs and Meerkats and the declining reach on these social platforms, I realize as a marketer, B, as a business owner as well, that owning your data in almost 2025 is more important than your social media followers. Like, social media vanity metrics, we can hit this, this point of the head until we're all blue in the face. Social media vanity metrics look good on the surface, but ultimately, if those followers and those vanity metrics aren't converting to real business, then what good is it to have a check mark on Instagram or have 100,000 followers, right? I would any day rather have 1,000 engaged email subscribers where I can now measure the effectiveness of my marketing through opens, clicks, and conversions. So that's a very long way of saying that I dove headfirst into the email marketing space, and creating content like this in collaboration with a platform like Agora Pulse is going to be one of my core focuses going forward, helping social media of all kind realize that social media, for as much as we love it, and yes, you still should be using these mediums from a brand building standpoint, from a business awareness standpoint, engaging with your customers, customer service, et cetera. There's value there. There's marginal value there. But in terms of rolling the dice and your entire digital marketing strategy revolving around social media and ignoring email, like, that in itself is a recipe for disaster. So there's, again, one thing I can just echo, and I know we're going to talk about this over and over, is brands today need to be focusing on how they're going to future-proof their brand over the next decade, right? AI is disrupting, just about everything that we've learned to this point about marketing. You can move faster, you can move more efficient. But AI is also fragmenting that relationship between the consumer, or the follower in this case, and the brand, whereas email still gives you that direct one-to-one connection. So that being said, man, a few months into this gig and just excited about what the future holds for Get Response.
Well, I appreciate the shout out, and I concur. We've actually partnered with Get Response a few times at Agora Pulse, and we absolutely love it. Robin, why don't you take us into the meat of what we're going to talk about today?
I mean, I feel like Carlos just like literally gave us so many like truth bombs throughout this whole thing. And I'm like, wait, we like each phrase that you said, I want to like help unpack. And I think it's, moving into the question for you, you kept saying head of social. And I want to highlight for everyone who's listening that social is no longer your intern's role. It is so the depth of social media today. You kept saying head of social, VP of social. And I'm like, yeah, it's not the intern if you want to get results. And these large companies that you talked about, Fortune 500, they need someone like you who's a thought leader, and then the doers underneath of it. Is a team. No longer is it one person who's working 15 hours a week, and is 12 years old pushing on your social. There is so much depth. And I love that you talked about that. And I think that we talk about, and what I preach about is omni-channel from stage to, and you're kind of unpacking that for us. Why should brands diversify? And I love just to reinforce like what you're saying. It cannot be one channel thing. And so why should brands diversify and not rely solely on social media alone?
No, agreed. I'm with you 110%. And the conversation that we should be having, again, what one of my goals coming into Get Response has been and will continue to be. And I just want to actually pause right there and say, this is going to be the first, I predict, bold prediction here, guys. I predict this is going to be the first of many collaborations that we do with Get Response and Agora Pulse, because these conversations, they need to be had over and over again. And the conversation needs to be had is around how do you marry social and email marketing together? How do you convert a social media follower into an email subscriber? What does that funnel look like? I know we're going to talk about this. You guys have some questions teed up. So we're going to talk about it here today. But the conversation shouldn't end today. It should be one that continues. And I say this coming from a place of throughout my career from 2008 all the way up until now, 2024. And it's different working for an ESP. So let's just say over the last 10 years, I've worked for big corporations. I've worked as a head of social media as a team of one. I've worked as a head of social media leading a global team. One thing is paramount, though, in these companies I've worked for. I've also advised and consulted for numerous Fortune 500s on social media marketing. One thing I've witnessed firsthand is your social media team usually is not working directly with the people that are behind the scenes pushing the buttons for your email marketing campaigns. The digital marketing team is not necessarily in the weeds with the social media team. There's some overlap around campaigns in terms of people come to the table, they're presenting, hey, this is what we're doing to support this initiative or this outreach. But in terms of having a symbiotic relationship, which is what you're talking about, true omni-channel strategy, you need to have the team or the person and organization that's behind the controls of your social media, engaging and working directly with people or the person who's responsible for email marketing. Those two teams need to be working together in tandem on developing a strategy in which the email flows into social and social content flows right back into email.
You're right that most businesses, those are completely different teams. They may not even talk to each other. Maybe they'll see each other once in a while in a monthly meeting or a scrum or something like that, but they're not coordinating. Take us through in a little more detail, please, how those teams would actually work together. I mean, it's one thing to just say, okay, we're all going to work on this campaign, but how does that synergy actually happen between email and social media? Can you walk us through that?
100%. So that's a good point. I would say that it goes back to what your objectives of each platform is. So let's start with social. Social should not be used as a medium to sell. Okay.
Amen.
So social should
yes.
So social should be used as a medium for one of three things. And anyone that's ever seen me speak or that's read my book, Into Marketing, I break this down. So social should be used as a medium to educate, inspire, and entertain, right? And leave it at that. If you look at the content that performs well on social media, it falls into one of those three categories. In fact, I like to use this analogy of online dating today and Tinder, right? This is like the Tinder approach to marketing. This is where it gets like a little weird. So let me just kind of explain this, right? In the world of online dating, what are people reacting to? They're reacting to content being another person that they perceive as looking good. And within a split second, you're making a determination. All right, like this person I find attractive, appealing. I want to get to know them. So I'm going to swipe one way. The person that doesn't seem as appealing, I'm going to swipe the other way. Content marketing on social media operates in the very, very same vein as online dating today. You know, the difference is you're on a phone, you're swiping really fast up and down. Content that you perceive as being an ad from a brand or being salesy in nature, you're gonna keep swiping, right? Content that has high engagement. Again, this is where the vanity metrics they do matter, but content that has high engagement, content that's perceived as bringing some sort of value, whether it's you can learn something, you can learn a hack, DIY, whatever it might be. There's educational content. There's something that inspires you, like, wow, you know, this makes me feel good, or entertainment, right? Content that's, you know, I'm a sports fanatic, right? So, you know, content's related to sports or movies or pop culture, like those three categories. If you really pay attention, that's the type of content that people are gravitating to social media for. They're not, like, spoiler alert for all the marketers in the room watching this, no one's going to social media with the intent of seeing your content. You can quote me on that,
100%.
you know, until the cows come home. Not a single person that follows your brand is going with intention on Instagram when they wake up first thing in the morning to see what your brand posts. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the biggest brand in the world. People aren't doing that. They're going on social media to escape. They're going on social media to learn something, to be inspired, again, to be entertained. So knowing that, the job of a marketer that's using these mediums should be to drive as much engagement around those three principles: educate, inspire, entertain. Drive as much engagement to then get more people into your ecosystem, because the name of the game here is to get people to share your content out. By sharing that content out, it elevates your brand awareness for free without having to pay for more people to know that you exist. And now, as more people are coming into your ecosystem, to keep them engaged, and this is key, you should be using a medium like stories. So I'm kind of thinking through Instagram right now, just so you guys know.
Yeah.
You use Instagram stories to keep the conversation going, right? You followers coming in, you're keeping that community engaged, you're posting content in real time, right? You're showing what makes your brand human. You're connecting a face, a voice with your brand instead of posting content that's static and seems like an ad. And you're doing this for no other reason than that is what works. That is what the influencers, the creators, the everyday mom, the everyday dad, the everyday working professional, that's what they're doing. So if they're doing that, then you as a brand should be doing the same thing. So that's more or less my synopsis at a very high level. Whenever I sit in front of a brand or a client and I'm breaking down, this is how you need to be using these mediums. And this is interchangeable, right? Whether it's Instagram or it's TikTok or Facebook or LinkedIn, like this is same playbook that's interchangeable. And then yes, each medium has a tool set or two that you can tinker with. Okay. But you don't sell. And like, that's the key. You don't use mediums to sell because people don't want to be sold to. They want to be engaged. The flip side to that is where email comes in. So email, I would say, is when you kind of have to stack rank the importance of these mediums. Email's significantly more important than social media to sell. Email is actually where you can sell. But how you sell, there's finesse to it. So again, knowing that when people open up their phone and they go to their Gmail or Outlook or whatever medium they use to receive email, the first thing that they see from your brand is an advertisement. More than likely, they're going to delete it. They're probably not going to unsubscribe, but they're going to delete it. Okay. And you don't want that. You don't want someone to delete, because that's the equivalent of someone continuing to scroll on Instagram or TikTok and not seeing your content, right? So you need to find ways in order to make your content sound human, engaging, relevant. And guess what? Plug for Get Response here. Get Response has an AI builder that will help you optimize your subject lines to ensure that they don't sound salesy and they sound engaging in nature, right? And we can get into that as we go along here, but I'm just kind of walking you guys through the relationship between email and social. So email is where you should use your email newsletter as a bulletin, so to speak, of what's happening within your organization. Company news, announcements, someone within your organization, did something like awesome in the community, like spotlight that in your email, but then also incorporate into the email the sale or the pitch or the offer of where you want people to go, and also connect relevant social media content. So if you had a post that's educational that got a lot of engagement, drop that in your email newsletter, right? So if you do this over time, you're training your audience, which is the same, right? Like there's often this tug of war, this push versus pull mentality of you're speaking to a different person on social versus email. No, you're speaking to the same person, right? Just imagine this is your customer. It's an imaginary person. It's the same person that you're speaking to, but you have to have a strategy that's similar yet different. Similar in terms of tonality. So if your brand is edgier and it's fun on social, it should be edgy and fun in email. If you're providing value via social, provide value via email, but email is still where you are going to drop the offer. And your email campaign, along with your social media posts, shouldn't necessarily be a one and done. This should be a conversation, if you will, or a relationship long-term that you are building and gradually progressing with your customers.
Love those points. We're going to unpack all that. I'm going to get Carlos to share some examples. But before we get into that, in honor of the Summer Games, I have a quick message for you from Paris.
So I'm hanging out here in Paris. Behind me, the iconic Eiffel Tower, which got me on Google. I did a search, what are the top tower destinations in the world? Number 3, Big Ben. Number 2, the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And number 1, the Eiffel Tower. So you would always think, I need to go to the Eiffel Tower. But the fact is, all 3 of those destinations are amazing experiences. So think of towers the way you would social media. What's the right social media fit for you? When I look at the price point and the top players in the space for what you get, the most enterprise features, there's 3 players. There's Hootsuite, there's Sprout Social, and there's Agorapulse. So why is Agorapulse the right tower for you? Well, it's funny you ask. So I went to G2 because it's all the user reviews. What do we get are 5 reasons that matter to you as a marketer. Number 1, it says that we actually are the easiest one to use of those 3. Number 2, we have the best support, and you know that support is what really drives the machine when you're really frustrated. Number 3, pricing for teams. All right, you got a team? You want pricing that's affordable, that doesn't keep nickel and diming you? Agorapulse. Number 4, product direction. You are passionate about your social media features and functions, we're number 1. And number 5, campaign optimization. Are your campaigns working? Can you make them better? You tell me. G2 says those 5 reasons are what make Agorapulse the right choice over Hootsuite, over Sprout Social. Think of us as the Eiffel Tower of social media. My name is Daryl. I'm with Agorapulse.
That tickles me every time. The Eiffel Tower of social media. Carlos,
I love that.
I
just want to interject real quick. I love the fact that Daryl called out some of your competitors there. Yeah. Right? It reveals that you guys aren't afraid, right, to take intelligent risks. It's almost like the Wendy's approach in B2B tech. So love it.
Awesome. Thank you. Wondering if you could share some examples of some brands, whether they're using GetResponse or something else, but we're looking for brands that have actually done what you're talking about. They've successfully integrated email and social media and what that looked like. Do you have any examples that come to mind?
You know, there's one that comes to mind that I'm a big fan of. So I follow the brands that I shop with or support financially very closely, because again, as a marketer, I want to be able to show love. Nordstrom's is a brand that I think does a really good job of doing both email and social. Their social content strikes a chord with me because they put a lot of human faces. They partner with influencers and creators in the fashion space, but then their email campaigns are very much tailored to sales-driven content. And look, like one thing I don't want to get lost here is it's okay to sell. Your customers, they realize it. You know, you're in business. Your job as a marketer is to provide them solutions. However, it's not always about the sale in every medium. So I would say again, Nordstrom's is a brand that I like their approach to marketing. Not necessarily email related, but I just mentioned Wendy's before. I'm a big fan of Wendy's persona on social because I think they do a really good job of humanizing their brand by having a trollish or wrestling fans out there, I'm going to use a term. They have a heelish type tone to their persona online, but they also don't have a face. Like that's the difference. So I wrote a book called The End of Marketing. It came out in 2019, and the subtitle of it is Humanizing Your Brand in the Age of Social Media and AI. And the whole premise behind The End of Marketing is that over the next decade, as AI becomes more prevalent, and we're halfway into this, so I'm glad to know I wrote a book that I made some predictions. To this point, they've panned out. In order for your brand to stand out in this AI driven economy that we're in, that's creating more noise, more content, you need to put a human face behind your brand, or in front of your brand, I should say. Like Get Response is a good example of what they're doing with me. But also it's incorporating a human element in terms of how you sound. People, they're tired of sales rhetoric. And I think going back to the Wendy's example, Wendy's has found a good balance to still promote their brand, get engagement, but also sound different than every other cookie cutter agency or marketer that's behind these big brands.
I think that's amazing what you're saying. I think you kind of talked about the good brands. So we've got to say, what are the mistakes that brands, don't call out brands right now, unless you want to. Want to be cheeky. But what are the brands that are, and the biggest mistakes that they're making right now when they're trying to bring these marketing channels together, and how can they avoid them?
It's a good question. So the challenge of working for a company like Get Response is I never want to take a shot at a brand in terms of what they're doing bad, because I don't, that might be a potential customer of Get Response. I don't want to jeopardize that relationship, nor do I want to obviously jeopardize my relationship with Get Response. But at the same time, I think there's always opportunity for growth, right? So someone isn't necessarily doing a stellar job at marketing. Well, that's where someone like me can potentially swoop in and say, hey, I work for an ESP, regardless of who you're using for email marketing. I'd love for you to have a conversation with us and maybe give you some pointers. Like that's, again, like the advantage when you have someone like myself in-house, someone like Mike with their Agora Pulse in-house, is we're also in-house marketing experts that can help clients and prospects. So I think the mistake that a lot of brands make is, again, their content is not optimized to engage, is optimized to sell. So there's a big difference there. Even if you're selling, optimizing your content to be in a voice and tone that sounds fun and engaging and inspiring and entertaining. And I'll give you an example of that. Back in 2020, my brother-in-law and I started a e-commerce business called Outlaw Masks, and the business took off for a variety of reasons, TikTok and organic reach on TikTok being one of them. But we actually had a brand with a defined voice and tone to it. And the voice and tone was not Reggie and Carlos. It was a maverick, country, Western, Southern badass from Texas, right? Like we knew, and this is pre-ChatGPT, we hired a copywriter that went out and wrote our email copy and social copy and web copy for no other reason than the tone of the voice didn't align with me as a marketer to be able to write it in the way it needed to be written. My whole point in saying this is that there's one thing that we did really well besides selling a lot of product in a short period of time and leveraging TikTok was, I can't tell you how many people would comment on, I love going to your website, I love receiving your emails, because it's saying all the things that I feel about the current climate, political climate, specifically around masks, but yet you're also offering a product that looks cool, it sounds badass. I want to support you guys as small business owners. So I say this because a lot of brands are afraid to take risks. A lot of brands are afraid to alienate others, and they want to step in and selectively participate. Like I just mentioned the word political climate. So like we're going through an election cycle right now. A lot of brands are on the sidelines until they see other brands jumping in for PR reasons. And I think, again, as a brand, you need to stay true to who it is that you're trying to engage, stay true to your end user, your target consumer, and whoever they are, model your content after them. I can't tell you how many companies I've either worked for as an employee or advised, and these companies are spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year on data, to analyze data. So they know who their target customer is. They're trying to cast a wide net. And to be successful nowadays, I believe it's more about going deeper with the net instead of going wide. So focus on like a very small subset of who it is that you're going after and model your content after that. So I don't know if that necessarily answers that question. I know being kind of PC there with not taking any jabs at any brands. I would say in short, um, sell less, engage more, and it starts with the copy that you're writing.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Robin's gonna hit you
perfect.
up afterwards to find out exactly who are some brands that aren't doing well because she wants to know the tea. I'd like to know a little bit more about Get Response. Are there any specific features or tools within the platform that, off the top of your head, think, oh yeah, you know what, that really helps us synergize with social media or with the social media team specifically?
There's a lot. So I know coming from Get Response, this is going to sound like I'm speaking with some bias. So I want to kind of remove the Get Response hat for a moment and just be Carlos, be the marketer. I've used a lot of email marketing platforms throughout my career, right? Like all the big names that small business owners use without rattling who they are. I've used many of them. I've yet to find a platform that provides as many features that Get Response offers and at the price point that Get Response offers. So Get Response goes beyond email marketing. And so, with our email marketing platform, you get unlimited sends, which in itself is tremendous value. You can send an email every single day. You don't have to worry about being or overpaying or being overcharged like other service providers do if you go over your limits. So that in itself is a big win, especially coming from the standpoint as someone that has owned multiple businesses before and someone that has a personal brand with an email list. It's important that I'm not limited to how many times throughout the course of the month or billing cycle I can send emails. So check on that. Price, check. So if you go to getresponse.com right now and you put how many email addresses or contacts that you have, it will share with you the price point of what you're going to be paying per month. And what you're going to find is we are very competitive and highly affordable by comparison to the other monkeys that are out there, if you know what I mean. But the tools itself beyond email are just phenomenal. You have website builders, landing page builders. If you're familiar with lead magnets and funnels, we have built-in lead magnets and funnels. You can host webinars within the tool. There's e-commerce integration. So again, someone who has owned multiple e-commerce Shopify-based stores, I can connect my Shopify store with Get Response. It imports products. It imports all my data, customer data. I can set up auto responders. There's just so much value within the tool. But the part that has me really excited is our content monetization platform. So going back to a few months ago when I was going through this interview process with Get Response, I'm coming to this thinking that this company is just about email marketing. And I learned very quickly that behind the scenes, they've been working on a content monetization platform to enter the creator economy. And this is all public. This isn't proprietary. You go on our website right now, you can sign up to be on the wait list and you'll learn all about our CMP or content monetization platform. It's going to be rolling out soon. But that excited me because that then said to me, okay, I might not necessarily be the guru in the email marketing space, but I'll tell you what, I have experience and I have receipts in terms of monetizing my content. I have receipts in terms of monetizing my knowledge. And if there's something that I can do really well is I can motivate and teach other creators to use our platform to future-proof their brand, monetize their content, monetize their IP. So we're going to be rolling out a content monetization platform, which essentially the high level of that, creators, coaches, whether you're a fitness influencer or a marketer like us, you'll be able to create your own course within Get Response. You'll be able to send out your newsletters, promoting your course. There's a lot of other features within the tool as well. Paid newsletters, which is really exciting. So if you're familiar with Morning Brew, I think I might have seen a link to Morning Brew when you guys were going back and forth about the latest news within X. Morning Brew is an interesting example because Morning Brew sold their newsletter right around 2020 for about $75 million. $75 million. And the more shocking number behind this is they only, and I say only in air quotes, they only had 4 million subscribers. They were able to create a free newsletter that drove a lot of value. So going back to people are taking to social media and the web to be educated. They created a free newsletter. They leveraged all their social networks to get as many marketers to opt into this newsletter as they can and tell their friends about it. And they ended up exiting for $75 million. So look at where we're at now with GetResponse as an email marketing platform. You can set up a free newsletter, or if you are a coach or creator and you have a big enough following to warrant it, you can also, with our content monetization platform, create a paid newsletter to gate some of your premium content. And I know that in itself is going to be a feature that takes off very quickly with our community.
Very cool.
Pocket change. Pocket change. That's what we're going to say. That's a huge number. And I think people need to be aware of the content, and it's not pushing sales. It is a totally different view on it. I think if you could share, without giving all your secrets away, what's your experience with like best practices for building and nurturing that email list once you get them?
That's a good question. Segmentation is key. So if you are dumping people into your email newsletter, so for example, you go on Zapier, right? There's integration where if you use, for example, a competitor, let's just say MailChimp, you can connect your MailChimp with your GetResponse account through Zapier. You can import your connections over into GetResponse. And, you know, not to make this a product pitch by any means, guys, but GetResponse allows you to join and use GetResponse for free for 30 days. So if you're watching this right now, I encourage you to go to getresponse.com, sign up for the free trial. You don't even need to put in a credit card. You can start using the platform. And one of the first things I want you to do is I want you to go to Zapier, sign up for Zapier, and then whoever you're using, whether it's MailChimp or Constant Contact or whomever, connect through Zapier so you can easily import your connections over into GetResponse. But what you really need to focus on is the segmentation aspect of this. You don't want, even if you have, let's just say hypothetically, 20,000 contacts in your email list, you don't want to always be sending the same email to those 20,000 contacts. Instead, what you want to do is you want to tailor your content. So in my own GetResponse account, I have a list which is called Open Engagers Insider Circle. So I used to use another platform before coming over to GetResponse, and I had my campaign segmented out based on whoever opened up an email within the last 5 sends was on this list. Okay, so I was constantly going in and scrubbing this list because I wanted to ensure to have the highest open rate and highest click-through rate and highest conversion rate. I want to ensure that my emails are going to the people that really want to see those emails, because the relationship is going to be different with them, right? If I have 20,000 contacts, but yet only 1,000 of them are my most engaged, I can have a very different relationship in how I speak to those contacts. I can give them something for free. I can say, hey, look, like I'm going to do a Zoom for 100 people. I want you to jump on, and any questions that you have, let's just do, you know, a coffee side chat virtually. Like I can do that with a very limited number of people. The people that don't necessarily engage, open, click, convert, that's a different segment altogether, because that's a different relationship. And I feel like that's the segment, going back to where do marketers mess up. They're focusing constantly on the most engaged or the followers that are the most loyal to the brand, and they lose sight of those that aren't as engaged. And that is where the magic really happens. And that's the key, is getting more people from the big bucket of the, let's just call them uninterested yet opted in crew, over into the engaged insider crew. And you do that through segmentation. So I would say, again, going back to answer your question, one of the first things that you should do when optimizing your email, you know, hopefully it's GetResponse, but when you use any of these platforms and you're optimizing your contacts, is segment them out. The second is setting up autoresponders. So you should go through and think of setting up autoresponders as almost like setting up smart devices in your home for them to all kind of be synchronized and work together in unison. And I'm actually doing a webinar next Wednesday, right around this time at noon Eastern, on marketing automation. So if you go to getresponse.com, go to our webinar section, sign up for it. I'm going to go much more in depth with this. But with that being said, autoresponders are key, because what you want to do is, again, to build this relationship with your customer, you kind of want it to be always on. So if someone opts in, they're receiving an email from you, and that email is going to give them instructions on what to do next. Or that email could be a drip campaign that you set up where today, upon opt-in, they're receiving X. Tomorrow, within 24 hours, they're going to receive something else. It could be a video, it could be an offer. 72 hours after that, they're going to receive something else. But my whole point in saying this is, when you set up autoresponders, you have an always on relationship with your customers. And same thing happens for when you send out a campaign. People that open, or people that click, or people that don't open or don't click or don't take any action. You can set up autoresponders to ensure that you're not just hitting the button once and waiting to see what happens, but instead you have a full marketing campaign with multiple different touch points.
I think that's amazing. And the segmentation point was really powerful because there's such a difference between email and social media in that regard. On email, you know exactly who hasn't opened your emails or clicked through on any of your links for a while. On social media, we really don't know. We know who we haven't seen, maybe if we're really paying attention, but we've got no way to talk directly to the people who haven't engaged with our page or profile on social media. So I appreciate that you kind of called out that difference and made sure that marketers know that they're potentially missing an opportunity with email that doesn't exist on other channels. Carlos, this has been such an interesting interview. Thank you so much. For folks who want to know more about you or know more about GetResponse, where can they go to find you and reach out?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, thanks so much to you guys. Thank you to Agora Pulse, Mike, Robin. This has been great. I hope we get a chance to do this again soon. First of all, if you want to learn anything about GetResponse, hit me up directly. I'm easily accessible on all the socials at Carlos Gil 83 on X, as well as on Instagram. You can also hit me up on LinkedIn. And again, getresponse.com. Go there, sign up, 30-day trial. Use the platform. I would love to hear your feedback. So feedback is a gift. I say this all the time in the public speaking world. So whatever you think about the platform, I want to hear about it. I want to share it with our executives, and it's at GetResponse on X as well as on IG. So once again, guys, hopefully this has brought some value to your listeners out there. And I look forward to doing this again with you guys.
Thanks, Carlos. That's all the time we've got for today, friends. But don't forget to find the MarTech Show podcast on Apple and leave us a review. Robin, any final thoughts?
No, I think this was great. Thank you so much, Carlos. Mike, we have some things and food for thought when we go back.
Fantastic. Until next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of the MarTech Show, hosted by Robin Dimond and Mike Allton, powered by Agora Pulse, the #1 rated social media management solution, which you can learn more about at agorapulse.com. If you want to make sure you're part of our audience during live weekly broadcasts, take a look at our calendar at agorapulse.com/calendar, or click the subscribe button in your email once you register for any of these events. Is there a particular tool or topic you'd like to see us talk about? Or perhaps you think your solution should be featured? Email me at mike@agorapulse.com.